Tonight, lockdown extension looming with new Delta alerts in Port Melbourne and 10 suburbs in the southeast. Plus, a vaccine push in Melbourne's west as health authorities grapple with a COVID mystery. Weddings back on in Sydney despite New South Wales recording more than 1,000 new cases. How an eagle-eyed family spotted a missing daughter to spark a heartwarming reunion with her mum. And the cats licking their wounds as the demons dare to dream. Special live finals coverage from inside Adelaide.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Mike Amor.
Good evening. Lockdown extension is looming for Victoria with urgent new COVID alerts for Port Melbourne and 10 suburbs in the southeast. There are now more than 700 active cases in the state as the Andrews government launches a fresh plea for more supply of vaccine.
Long queues at St Kilda's Peanut Farm Vaccination Centre as health authorities turn their attention to a new cluster in nearby Port Melbourne. So alarming it drew the COVID response commander out there. 4 customers tested positive after visiting Woolworths and its neighbour, an auto mega warehouse and car wash.
We are not yet certain whether there is transmission at that location, but when I've got 4 cases in one day in that bit of geography, obviously we're going to be a little bit concerned.
Also a concern, the virus's tentacles may have spread even further southeast. Wastewater detections right through the sandbelt from Mordialloc to Seaford. An appeal for residents with symptoms to get tested immediately.
We need people to help us use the wastewater detection as the early warning signal to make sure that we stay ahead of the virus outbreaks.
Today, a slight drop to 64 cases, 15 are mystery cases, 28 infectious while in the community. So is the lockdown working?
And what I will say, what we've achieved in 3 weeks is the place hasn't exploded. We have seen a really strong, robust control over these outbreaks.
As part of a pilot program, Altona GP Mukesh Haikerwal vaccinates around 500 people on a Saturday. The Commonwealth pays the usual fee for service, the state for weekend overtime and extra expenses.
It's not a big ask, but it's a very wise investment and will reap significant benefits with more jabs, more arms as quickly as we can locally.
He wants it to expand Melbourne-wide, but that appears unlikely because of state and federal bickering.
At what point does the Commonwealth stop outsourcing its responsibilities to the state?
This has been the hardest nut to crack to get the states to work with the Commonwealth.
A staff member testing positive at this Echuca aged care facility highlights another problem. Of the 182 staff there, just 56% had received at least 1 dose. Again, a federal responsibility, but aged care workers have been given priority in state vaccination hubs. The poor response, frustrating.
We continue to be concerned that we see a relatively low uptake of vaccination in private aged care facilities, and we'll do all we can to support the Commonwealth in addressing that issue.
7 more cases in Shepparton today, bringing the cluster there to 85. Authorities believe it's now controlled. The government has not ruled out easing the lockdown next week, but experts say that is unlikely. The aim is still to control and suppress the outbreaks before we hit vaccination targets.
It's November before we're all fully vaccinated. And we're not going to lie down now and say that's it, it's just too hard. We'll just wait for vaccinations to take care of this.
Nick McCallum, 7 News.
A COVID mystery likened to an Agatha Christie novel is emerging in Melbourne's western suburbs. Paul Dowsley is at the source of the scare, and Paul, health authorities are baffled.
It's been a problem for weeks, Mike. Viral fragments showing up in wastewater from this large industrial estate in Sunshine West. There are no houses here, just hundreds of businesses. The problem is that no one who works here has tested positive. So health officials are asking anyone who frequents this industrial estate to get tested even without symptoms, because someone who has COVID is coming here. Authorities just want to find them and isolate them. This is where COVID clues are showing up in Melbourne's wastewater, mostly from known cases. But this is where it's detected without known cases. In Sunshine West, it's been showing up since August 8.
It's an absolute Agatha Christie story at the moment, trying to detect where the virus is in that Sunshine West industrial precinct.
Melbourne's West remains a major concern, now with 162 active cases.
They will get on top of this.
Today, some there were seeking protection as a new Tier 1 site was announced, a Hoppers Crossing grocery store for the 7 days up to last Monday. To the north, in Broadmeadows, the cluster that started at a childcare centre has grown by 10, now 102 active cases.
Over 1,000 primary close contacts.
The COVID commander spoke with some of the centre's parents and staff last night.
Some very moving and some very honest stories around the challenges of young children picking up COVID and the implication on their wider families.
Delta's impact on the young remains deep. Of Victoria's 701 active cases, 60% are 30 or under, 21% are 10 or under. In New South Wales, despite a record high 1,035 new positives plus 2 more deaths, the government is easing one restriction. From Friday, weddings are back, but only 5 friends and family allowed, as the state approaches 15,000 active cases.
That's what happens when things get away from you.
Their ambulance system is struggling too. Demand over the past 3 days like a repeated New Year's Eve. Calls asking for an ambulance to take them for a vaccine or deliver food means real emergencies are being delayed.
This week we had a 25-minute response to an 18-year-old cardiac arrest. This is devastating.
Our Health Minister predicts New South Wales will soon have hundreds in intensive care.
That is a huge demand on healthcare.
And that's what he wants Victoria to dodge.
I'm pretty sure that if they had their time again, they might well have gone harder and earlier at the start of their outbreak.
Paul Dowsley, 7 News.
There's devastating new insight tonight into the impact the pandemic is having on the mental health of young Victorians. Hospital admissions are skyrocketing, even among children under 10.
Living through lockdown has been tough for 15-year-old Monique Heffernan.
Not being with friends, not being able to go out.
During her lowest point, the teen turned to self-harm.
I was devastated. It's shocking.
Experts say services are experiencing unprecedented demand. On average, 340 teenagers suffering a mental health crisis are being hospitalised each week, and there's been an 88% jump in teenagers self-harming or contemplating suicide.
It's tough out there. Everyone recognises how tough it is.
How many kids are going to self-harm or die in the pursuit of COVID zero? The best thing we can do for our children's mental health is to get them back into the classroom.
The Royal Children's Hospital says the number of admissions to its mental health ward is the largest it's ever seen. They're now treating children as young as 9 for eating disorders.
There's been a massive increase in demand, and really since about April or May of last year. This is really out of the box. It's like a wave, if you like.
Les Twentyman, who works with young Victorians like Monique, wants hundreds more youth workers on the streets.
I've never seen it this bad. Our job was always to try and keep kids in classrooms and out of courtrooms, but they can't even go to school.
While the Royal Children's Director of Mental Health has this advice for parents.
I think parents should cut themselves a bit of slack. I mean, if you have teenagers, you'll know that there are good and bad days. What we want to do is really give kids meaning and focus through all this time.
Estelle Greypink, 7 News.
Perth's AFL Grand Final hopes hinge on containing a new COVID outbreak in Western Australia. Chief Football reporter Tom Brown has tonight's developments. And Tom, 20 people are now in isolation.
Mike, the Cats have just landed in Perth. The message from the WA Premier at this stage is don't panic. The COVID situation is very low risk. The numbers say 20 close contacts, no new positive cases, 2 new exposure sites. The AFL optimistic this afternoon the finals won't be impacted, but clearly they're monitoring the situation very closely. Mike, meantime, high drama here in Launceston. The Giants are through to the next stage of the finals. Toby Green involved in potentially intentional impact or contact with the umpire. It'll almost be certainly directly referred to the AFL Tribunal. I'll explain that rule and more on the fallout from here in Launceston shortly in sport, Mike.
OK, Tom, thank you. As the government focuses on rolling out double-dose vaccination, questions are already being asked about when we'll get boosters. Some countries are already offering extra shots, bolstering protection as they open up.
With over a third of Australians fully vaccinated, attention is now turning to a third shot.
We will see natural waning of immunity and the emergence of a new variant.
The question for Australia is when. Israel started in July, offering those over 30 a booster dose. The US will begin next month for the eligible population. France and Germany prioritising the vulnerable and the elderly. Any decision to start round 3 here will be based on advice from ATAGI.
At the moment, we're not planning booster doses in Australia. We're planning to continue rolling out the vaccine.
I think we have a long way to go before we start talking about boosters.
But recent studies show the efficacy of the Pfizer vaccine fell to 75% after 3 months, AstraZeneca to 61%, prompting questions about whether the government should be rolling out boosters sooner.
It's something that we're monitoring very, very closely.
Looking to avoid further supply issues, the federal government has already secured 85 million doses of Pfizer, 15 million updated Moderna shots and 51 million doses of Novavax, all set to arrive from 2022. Health chiefs also prioritising approving the Moderna vaccine for use in kids,
with a decision expected within the next 2 weeks.
Meanwhile, the federal government has finalised a no-fault COVID-19 vaccine insurance scheme, allowing those who do experience rare side effects easy access to compensation. Backdated to the start of the rollout, it will cover costs of injuries over $5,000 due to a proven adverse reaction, without the need for complex and costly court cases. Taylor Aiken, 7 News.
A report into the COVID Safe app has revealed it's proving little help to contact tracers. The app doesn't work in high-risk settings like crowded indoor venues or outdoor events. It's cost taxpayers $8 million, despite identifying only 17 close contacts since it launched last year. But the government insists COVID Safe has still played an important role during the pandemic. The US has hit back as Islamic State, carrying out a drone strike on a target believed to be plotting another terror attack. The death toll from the devastating blast outside Kabul airport has gone past 180, mostly Afghan civilians trying to flee the Taliban.
Their plans to flee halted for funerals. Wounded Afghans fill local hospitals. After one of the deadliest days of the war in Afghanistan, US troops pressed on, continuing their mission under the threat of more bloodshed.
We still believe there are credible threats. In fact, I'd say specific credible threats.
Crowds today noticeably thinner outside Hamid Karzai Airport, where a suicide bomber attacked just hours earlier. The Pentagon revising its report, saying it was 1, not 2 blasts. Still, the death toll grows. Among them, a Navy medic, a father-to-be, a young Marine who wasn't even born when this war started.
The mission there being performed is dangerous, and is now it's come with a significant loss of American personnel. But it's a worthy mission.
After vowing to hunt their killers, the president ordered a precision airstrike overnight, taking out an ISIS-K planner in Nangarhar province. The US Central Command saying initial indications are that we killed the target.
I think he made clear yesterday that he does not want them to live on the earth anymore.
With the Taliban still guarding the airport perimeter, the US has little choice but to work with them, facing criticism for handing over a list of Americans to be let through at checkpoints. Those desperate to leave have few options left and face danger at every turn. In Washington, D.C., Ashley Mullaney, 7 News.
A frantic 2-day search has ended with a heartwarming reunion between a mother and her daughter. The autistic girl vanished from Mooroolbark on Thursday. This morning, she was found by an eagle-eyed family.
A desperate 2-day search for Yasmina Sims ends here, reunited with her emotional mother. Yasmina has non-verbal autism. Writing is the only way she can communicate, and this is how she told her mum she was okay.
I'm just glad that she's safe and well and that nothing untoward has happened to her.
The Maslovsky family had just left home when they spotted Yasmina on the side of the road.
She looked like she had mud all over her and had a hood on, and we knew last night that there was a girl missing, so all of a sudden his alerts went on.
Without any hesitation.
We just pulled over and got out and went up to her, and obviously she wasn't talking, but you could tell that she definitely wanted some help.
And one very thankful mum.
It's just such a fantastic result that there are caring people out there who are willing to stop and be involved and ring the police and say, hey, we found her.
I feel like I didn't do too much, really,
I'm just glad she's home safe.
They'd helped her out and we're really indebted to them. They've given her a jacket of theirs, kept her calm at the location, called the police, and we've managed to get here and sort it out and bring Mum here, which was fantastic. We're really happy about this. It's great.
Police suspect the 20-year-old covered more than 15 kilometres in less than 48 hours. With no food, water or warmth, they say it's remarkable Yasmina was in such good spirits when she was found here.
It's just a real credit to our society that we have such a good police force.
Cassie Zervos, 7 News.
Well said. The nerves are setting in for long-suffering Melbourne fans, with the Demons kicking off their finals campaign very shortly. Andrew Hayes is inside Adelaide Oval for us. And Andrew, SA-based Demon fans will be out in force.
Oh, Mike, they certainly will be. And I think the D's may have earned themselves just a few more SA-based fans after their form this season. They have been absolutely spectacular. They've been a powerhouse all season, and rightfully so, they'll go in tonight as red-hot favourites. Now, the conditions for tonight were pretty good until about 45 minutes ago. A couple of showers came across Adelaide Oval, and that weather is supposed to stick around, so it's going to be greasy conditions for the players. But this is the venue that the D's chose to play with everything that's happening back in Melbourne. And it's no surprise, really. They played this ground really well. The last time they were here was round 17 when they played Port Adelaide. They won that by 31 points, but it was a dominant performance and they didn't really look too troubled at all. Well, the Lions, as for them, they're flying high after that percentage-boosting win over the Eagles to put them back into the all-important top four. So we're not too far away, Mike, for here at Adelaide Oval, the all-important second qualifying final. I'll be back a little bit later on in sport with any late changes.
Yeah, we've said it before. All of us in Melbourne are jealous. Thank you. The Giants and the Swans have played out an absolute classic, Jackie Felgate. What a game in Launceston.
It was a ripper, Mike. It had everything you would want in a big final. We'll have the full fallout shortly. Some Buddy Franklin brilliance almost lifted the Swans to a famous win, but the Giants lived to fight another day. We'll hear from Toby Green as he faces another week in the spotlight. The Bombers head to the Apple Isle after an exposure site shock. The eye-watering figure behind Cristiano Ronaldo's shock move to Manchester United. And Mike, a North Melbourne star, is in hospital after a drunken mountain bike stunt gone wrong. I'll have plenty on that later in sport.
OK, see you soon. Thanks, Jack. Mum and dad investors say they're being left behind as Melbourne's property market faces an uncertain spring. Plus, the moment police pounced on a teenager accused of a violent kidnapping. The shock parole win for Robert F. Kennedy's assassin. A Melbourne driver's $500,000 mistake. And later, welcome relief for the 1 in 5 Australians dealing with allergies. A teenager accused of kidnapping a 26-year-old has been arrested after police raided the 18-year-old's Werribee home. It's alleged he held his victim captive and assaulted him before making demands for his return last month. The accused kidnapper is due to face court tomorrow. Melbourne's lockdown property market is defying the odds, but there are predictions the boom could end the longer uncertainty drags on. It comes as mum and dad investors take another hit.
House inspections done differently.
Started off outside, walked in, panned around the rooms.
Emma Udorovic conducted her own virtual tour through her Abbotsford property while her real estate agent played narrator.
To be honest, it was really easy. I was a bit nervous at the start. I have my list of rooms to go through written on my hand here.
To have 15 to 20 odd people zoomed in to have a look at the home, especially on such a beautiful sunny day, just goes to show the interest that's still there even virtually.
In-person inspections are still banned during lockdown, which is predicted to put a halt on the spring campaign until October.
Photographers can't commence their marketing campaigns, stylists can't work, and we can't see those properties going onto the internet.
Confidence in selling property online has grown significantly in the past 12 months. This time last year, 39 homes went under the hammer, while this weekend almost 500 auctions are scheduled.
We have clients that have sold that need to move. We've got people that have bought and need to sell, and that is as essential as a hot latte anywhere in Melbourne.
But mum and dad investors have been left with a bitter taste after the Victorian government renewed its commercial tenancy relief scheme, forcing landlords to cover the costs for businesses who can't afford their rent.
What's often forgotten is most owners are self-funded retirees, and this is just another hit for them. They just can't afford it.
Sarah Jones, 7 News.
The man who assassinated Robert F. Kennedy has been granted parole. 77-year-old Sirhan Sirhan is serving a life sentence over the 1968 murder. 2 of Mr Kennedy's sons wrote to a parole board supporting his release. He's not a free man just yet. The decision will soon be reviewed and must be ticked off by California's governor. The boss of tech giant Apple has received a huge $750 million bonus to mark 10 years in the job. Tim Cook collected and then sold off more than 5 million shares. The payday is part of a deal he struck when he took over from Apple's co-founder, Steve Jobs. Apple's share price has increased 12,000% since he became chief executive in 2011. The grit of the Paralympics was on full display today when visually impaired runner Jared Clifford battled his way to silver. The Victorian dedicating the medal to his late grandfather.
Legally blind, Jared Clifford's seen this day clearly for many years. Hot favourite in the T13 5,000 metres, the 22-year-old Aussie was perfectly placed.
At the bell.
But with 2:50 to go, Spain's Udadi made his move.
Clifford, can he get past him?
Clifford fought like he always does.
What's going through your head at the moment, mate?
That was really hard.
Physically ill, emotionally spent, Jared dedicated his first Paralympic medal to his late grandfather.
He passed away a few months ago, and today and in the next few days, I'm running for him.
You don't need gold to win a nation's hearts, and he still has the 1500 and marathon. It is a virtual sauna in here today, and out of cold Sydney lockdown, Madison De Rosario was into the fire, one of the hottest T54 5000 fields we've ever seen. American Susanna Scaroni broke free for gold. Maddie burned off the rust in 5th, with 3 races to come at her 4th Games.
It's such an honour, it's such a privilege to be straight on this point, because I really do feel like we are leading the way in that. I think we are committing to this genuine representation of all of our athletes across the board, Olympic and Paralympic.
5-time gold medalist Evan O'Hanlon's into tonight's T38 100 final, here to push for a Winter Olympics debut next year.
If anyone wants to fund my bobsled team, I'm willing to sell my medal if I can get one in the final.
Australia's medal rush continued in the pool last night. Katia Dedekin added bronze in the 400 freestyle. Tiffany Thomas-Kane took bronze in the 200 individual medley.
Had an injury earlier this year where I ruptured my liver, so even getting to the Games, I didn't think it was going to be a possibility.
In Tokyo, Matt Carmichael, 7 News.
It was a costly drive home for one Melbourne Lamborghini owner who flipped their high-powered sports car on the Princess Highway in Narre Warren. Police, ambulance officers and members of the fire brigade were called on to help take the $500,000 model off for some much-needed repairs. Up next, Victorian teachers locked in a bitter dispute. They're demanding a 21% pay rise and more. Also, why Australia risked being left behind as the world shifts to electric cars. What Taliban control in Afghanistan means for global security. And the heartwarming story of a medical wonder 20 years after life-saving surgery. Victorian teachers could stop writing reports and go on strike as their fight for a 21% pay rise intensifies. The union wants a 7% increase for the next 3 years, plus increases in superannuation payments. Teachers and principals will vote on whether to start industrial action in October. Electric car sales have reached record levels in Australia, but motoring experts say we're still well behind other countries and something needs to change fast.
Driving an electric car helps John Clark fight climate change.
I know that by having a personal electric vehicle, I can have quite a big impact on carbon reduction.
He's part of a social enterprise that finds buyers affordable models.
We have a long list of people who want access to electric vans.
More and more Australian drivers are opting for an eco-friendly ride. In the first 6 months of 2021, 8,688 electric vehicles were sold, 1,788 more than the whole year of 2020. It's a far cry from 2011, when just 49 cars were sold Australia-wide. But infrastructure consultants say there's a long road ahead.
It's inevitable that electric vehicles are going to be the future. Sub 10,000 vehicles is still woefully low, and that represents around 1% of vehicles sold in comparison to countries like Norway that are sitting around 70%.
They're calling for better government policy and more fast charging stations so drivers can get from A to B.
The government need to make a firm commitment.
There's already really great examples of how state governments and councils are providing really solid incentives. If the federal government was to back something like that, then that could have a really big impact.
Estelle Greeping, 7 News.
There's a warning tonight that the dramatic changes in Afghanistan are reshaping threats to global security. A weakened US, an emboldened China and the Taliban struggling to keep terrorism under control are all impacting Australia's concerns.
After 20 years of war, Afghanistan in Taliban hands and under siege from terrorists.
Overall, I think there are many more global jihadists in Afghanistan now than there were before the American intervention.
It means new alliances and it means global terror on steroids, unfortunately.
Antonio Giustozzi has visited Afghanistan dozens of times and says it's not the same Taliban of the 1990s that protected Osama bin Laden.
They are certainly much more pragmatic and more experienced in terms of, international politics than they were in the 90s when they had no clue.
They now must attempt to govern in the 21st century, but security experts fear the new wave of terror in Afghanistan will spread. The country now a massive lab for jihadis with access to technology left behind by the US, including an airport where they can test new ways of beating Western systems. The Taliban under pressure to keep its word to keep terrorists under control.
So basically they can use them as an insurance policy to make sure that certain countries will be nice to the Taliban in exchange for the Taliban keeping under control the jihadists.
The redrawing of the geopolitical map likely to have particular impact on Australia, and not just because of the terror threat. China, now considered to be emboldened, eyeing off a stronger relationship with the Taliban to consolidate its influence in Central Asia and the South China Sea, with China potentially fast-tracking a move on Taiwan.
If America is now seen as weak, then China will become so much stronger in anything it does.
Which could create new conflict in our region. In London, Hugh Whitfeld, 7 News.
Now to the remarkable story of Alyssa Nolan, who at just 3 weeks old was separated from her conjoined twin. 20 years later, she's making incredible strides towards independence, landing her first job.
Remarkable, inspiring, a medical wonder. All ways Alyssa Nolan has been described.
And I'm just like, thank you, but I'm just a normal human being.
At 23 days old, Alyssa defied all odds, surviving 23-hour separation surgery at the Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital in 2001. Sister Bethany was already ill, so a Supreme Court judge ruled Alyssa deserved a fighting chance. Sadly, Bethany didn't survive.
For people that know Alyssa now, where you see one, I will always see two.
Alyssa's life hung in the balance.
Probably the first 5 to 6 years of her life were the most difficult. She had multiple reconstructive surgeries.
Now a strong, happy and healthy woman, despite her mild intellectual disability, she's determined and independent. And when hair salon Price Attack heard the 20-year-old was job hunting, she was brought into the Indrapilli team.
I was so excited to meet new people and
show them what I can do.
The team absolutely adore having Alyssa around. She's bright, bubbly.
Alyssa hopes the skills she learns in her new job will help her achieve her next dream, to travel the world.
Making her family and, most importantly, herself proud.
Like, Mum, I got my first pay. I was so excited.
A first step to financial freedom. Crystal Etherington, 7 News.
A low-life firebug is targeting the headquarters of Melbourne Salvation Army. Exclusive details are next. Plus, relief for Australians living with potentially life-threatening allergies. And we're on board with 2 Demons greats ahead of tonight's Date with Destiny. A firebug has targeted the Melbourne headquarters of the Salvation Army. Investigators were called to the rear of the Burke Street property around 4 o'clock this morning.
I was shocked. When you look at the ferocity of the fire and what could have been lost for so many people in the city, it's really concerning. Police are yet to make an arrest.
4 million Australians with potentially life-threatening allergies will soon have better access to treatment. An alternative to the EpiPen will be listed on the PBS from next week.
For people with life-threatening allergies, this device can be a lifesaver.
I always carry 4 adrenaline auto-injectors with me at all times.
Anything from food to insects can trigger a potentially deadly anaphylactic response. Henry Fudge is allergic to bees.
I felt my tongue starting to tingle and my eyes even swelling.
A single dose of adrenaline through an auto-injector relaxes the lungs, helping with breathing, swelling, skin rashes and itching. It reduces the risk of hospitalisation and death.
Adrenaline is the first-line treatment for anaphylaxis, and I view it as the perfect antidote. It treats all of the life-threatening features of an episode of anaphylaxis.
The EpiPen is the most well-known brand in Australia, but from next Wednesday, the AnaPen will be listed on the Pharmaceutical Benefits Scheme and subsidised for sufferers with a prescription. Adrenaline auto-injectors have an expiration date and must be replaced every 1 to 2 years. Recently, there have been shortages and recalls. This new device will give sufferers an alternative.
Having another device in the Australian market means that when there is a shortage of either device, we will have a backup.
Gives me peace of mind that I'll always have supply to my life-threatening anaphylaxis.
Melina Saris, 7 News.
2 Melbourne greats are daring to dream this September as the Demons look to break their 57-year premiership drought. David Neitz and Russell Robertson will join thousands of nervous fans tonight, cheering on from their living rooms.
You'd be hard-pressed to find anyone whose heart beats as true as this loyal Demon pair.
We all, as Melbourne supporters, tend to err on the side of caution because we've been probably burnt before, and we were the couple of guys that burnt them.
David Neitz, the inspirational captain. Russell Robertson, the dynamic high flyer. Both got Melbourne as close as they've come to breaking its 57-year premiership drought. And like all D's diehards, they're daring to dream this September.
I think a lot of people are saying we're getting ahead of ourselves, but it was the manner in which we got there, I think, that last kick by Maxi. We were all collectively jumping around our living room, just giving it these ones, I'm sure.
Give yourself a high five. Yeah. I think it does feel a bit different this year, just the resolve they've had all the way through the year.
A Lions side led by Chris Fagan is their first finals hurdle. Fagan, a former right-hand man to Neil Danaher at Demonland.
I gave Fags a text after he got into top 4. And it was all excited for him, and then he texted me back later on saying, "But you're not barracking too hard for me now." We've got a lot of love for Fags, but we're not wishing him too much luck.
If the D's do go on to exercise decades of premiership pain, the champagne corks will have to be popping in lounge rooms instead of the MCC members.
We'll take the silverware anyway, if you don't mind.
Us past players, we're just 100% behind the boys. We just want them to succeed so much.
Andrew McCormack, 7 News.
Oh, it's fair to say the nerves are starting to build for the Demons fans. Jackie Felgate, the heavens have opened in Adelaide. Not sure that's a good or a bad thing.
Indeed, Mike. It's going to be a wet night with a spot in the preliminary final on the line. We'll have the latest from inside Adelaide Oval next. Plus, we'll hear from Toby Green, who's under the spotlight after a day of high drama in Launceston. Plus, the Cats facing a straight sets finals exit. Also, a North Melbourne star in hospital after a drunken mountain bike stunt gone wrong. And look who's heading back to the Premier League. Welcome back. The Giants have won a finals thriller in Tassie to set up a huge semi-final clash with the Cats. GWS held off a fast-finishing Sydney by the barest of margins, but they face a nervous wait with Toby Green in hot water again.
In the end, 1 point was the difference between victory and heartbreak.
And the Giants are through to the semi-finals.
A desperate scramble by Sydney in the last 5 minutes.
It's bouncing and Perryman gets there.
Both benches on their feet as the Swans surged in the final quarter but missed their chance to clinch the win.
It won't come back. It won't come back.
Giants did enough to get through, just.
We were holding on for dear life in the last 5 minutes and had to find a way, and just so proud of the boys.
The Swans opened the scoring. Papley was hard to control.
His finishing has been superb.
Until he crossed paths with Shane Mumford.
And then all of a sudden, he ran into Mumford, who didn't move.
20 points apiece at the first break, then the Giants accelerated.
Toby Green, 25 and closing.
Green kicked 3 and got in everyone's way, but he was also a target. Chasing 1,000 goals, the superstar didn't get there, but also bagged 3.
Yes, sir. He's got 3.
And pumped up the Tassie crowd, who were in the Swans' favour. A serve from John Longmire at half-time, and Sydney chipped away at the Giants' lead.
Middle, and he's absolutely nailed it.
But Jesse Hogan had the answer heading into the final term.
That one bites back.
Concerns for Isaac Cumming, who was in all sorts with an injured ankle. GWS now set for a showdown with Geelong. Laura Spurway, 7 News.
Tom Brown is in Launceston with the fallout. Good evening, Tom. Toby Green looks to be in trouble.
Jackie's headed for an almost certain date with the AFL Tribunal, which will determine the enigmatic Stars' finals fate. Now, the definition of intentional contact with an umpire post-2018, the definition was changed as quite broad. It's aggressive, forceful, demonstrative or disrespectful contact with the umpire. It's hard to argue that wasn't disrespectful towards Matt Stevic, who was the umpire in this case tonight. I expect it will be referred to the tribunal. This was Green a short time ago speaking to our broadcast.
I don't know what it was. Yeah, just in the moment, and no, I certainly wouldn't even touch him. I think I was just talking to him about something in the game.
Jack, contact with the umpire made famous by Diesel Greg Williams in the 90s. He received 9 weeks in those days and had a lengthy court battle to try and clear his name. Isaac Cumming, he's got an ankle injury. That's obviously a blow for the Giants. The Giants tonight, Jack, will go to Barnbougle, a very famous golf course here in Tasmania. They can't play golf, but it will be some welcome respite for them for the week before they go to Perth. Sydney tonight will come back to Melbourne to be reunited with their families in Melbourne. Of course, Jeremy Cameron will face his old side next week. It's an incredible postscript, Jack.
Certainly is. Thank you, Tom. The Demons and Lions will be keeping a close eye on the weather radar ahead of tonight's qualifying final. Returning to Andrew Hayes inside the Adelaide Oval. Andrew, good evening. Conditions could be a big factor tonight.
Yeah, well, Jackie, conditions were actually perfect about an hour ago, and then a couple of big showers came across Adelaide Oval. And the weather radar is telling us that those showers are going to stick around. So we'd expect the conditions to be just a little bit greasy, which would probably play into the hands of the D's. We know how good they are at contested footy. And we know that they love this ground, and they chose it for a reason. Last time they were here was round 17. They played Port Adelaide, and they were very good. They won by 31 points. The Lions, well, they come into this one with some good form as well. That big win against the Eagles to get them back inside the top 4. But it is the D's who will be the favourites tonight, and still given the conditions, it won't change the way that they're going to set up.
We won't change our team, but yeah, it's just going to make it even more contested. So our boys are expecting a really tough fight against the Brisbane Lions, and they can't wait to get out there.
Can't wait for this one, Jackie. You guys are going to rejoin us straight after the news. Should be an absolute epic blockbuster.
Enjoy the game. Thank you. Geelong will be forced to make at least one change for next week's semi-final. The Cats left to pick up the pieces out west after another lacklustre start to a final series.
Sore and sorry. The Cats head to Perth to try and salvage their finals campaign.
Yeah, it was a poor performance. Virtually everything that could go wrong did go wrong.
We just didn't have enough winners. We didn't have many winners at all out on the ground. They are just too good tonight.
A 43-point loss to a rampaging Port Adelaide sees Geelong face GWS in a do-or-die semi-final.
The scenario is that we still need to win 3 games, but to be honest, we'll just be concentrating on next week.
Coach Chris Scott defending their poor Week 1 finals record with just a single win in 9 occasions.
If you do want to look back to last year, it looked eerily similar. We had our chances and didn't take them.
Geelong were put to the sword by a dominant Aaliyah, stunning in the air.
Aaliyah, huge start to this game.
What we wanted to do with Aaliyah, and part of that is don't kick it to him when he's in best position.
The Cats look almost certain to be without Mark O'Connor, who re-injured his troublesome left hamstring. Port, though, are confident Orancio Fantasia will be back for the prelim. Essendon and the Dogs flew out to Tassie late today as they prepare for their must-win clash tomorrow afternoon. And North Melbourne's Jaden Stevenson is in hospital with a fractured hip and may need surgery. In a statement, the club confirmed he'd been drinking with housemates when he tried to perform a trick on a mountain bike and fell from a back deck onto concrete.
To racing now, and Jamie Carr's suspension cost her a ride on Behemoth, which started favourite in the $1 million Memsie Stakes at Caulfield. Fellow hoop Brett Preble took full advantage of the late call-up.
Behemoth, the big brute, goes back to back in the Memsie.
Preble picks up $30,000 in prize money for the win. Marc Marquez somehow managed to walk away after crashing at more than 270 kilometres an hour at Silverstone. In Formula One, a driver's eye camera gave a never-before-seen perspective at the Spa Grand Prix. Red Bull's Max Verstappen topped the timesheet despite finding trouble late in practice. And Manchester United has pulled off a transfer shock, luring Cristiano Ronaldo back to Old Trafford. Crosstown rivals Man City was favourite to land the 36-year-old from Juventus, but a chat with Sir Alex Ferguson reportedly sealed the deal. Mark, Ronaldo is tipped to earn $900,000 a week at the club he called home from 2003 to 2009. In a week. And, of course, it is the Lions and the D's straight after the news right here on 7. Who's your tip?
Oh, I'm going for the D's,
yeah,
of course.
The heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jack. Melina Saris is next with the forecast, and Mel, our taste of spring doesn't last long.
It doesn't, Mike. Today was beautiful, but tomorrow will be showery and cold. I'll have all of those details right after the break. Today's sunshine was lovely but brief. A cold front is on the way. The city made it to 17.8 following a chilly morning of 5 degrees. A high pressure system brought us today's sunshine, but as that high heads east overnight, it allows a weakening cold front to move into Western Victoria on Sunday morning. And that front brings us some scattered showers and thunderstorms spreading east across Victoria. This system will also drop our temperatures and bring snow to the Alps. A quick check of our capitals. A storm or a shower for Brisbane, a possible shower in Sydney. Adelaide has a morning shower and more showers for Perth. We will have showers in Victoria as well. They'll be scattered and will extend across the state, clearing by the late afternoon and evening. Isolated thunderstorms are also possible. It'll be cool to mild temperature-wise, with light to moderate northerly winds tending west to northwesterly in the afternoon. Closer in, the sunshine disappears and it's back to grey skies. These showers will ease during the late afternoon and we should be all dry by the evening. Thunderstorms could pop up in the afternoon and top temperatures are mostly around the mid-teens. In the city, showers easing later in the day, 9 overnight with a top of 15. Monday is nicer, partly cloudy and 18, partly cloudy, 21 on Tuesday. Our first day of spring is looking great, sunny and 23 on Wednesday. Plenty of sunshine, 25 on Thursday. Friday starts warm, but there's a change with a shower or two and more showers on Saturday, Mike.
Now, Mel, our viewers don't miss a trick. They notice that you're extra glowing right now.
We actually do have some news. My husband, Jonathan, and I are expecting a baby. So we're very excited. It is due. He or she is due in January.
All right. Well, we're very happy for you. That's the best news of the day.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And that's 7 News. Thanks for your company. Up next, the Demons take on the Lions for a spot in the prelim final. For now, from the 7 News team, have a great night.